The Uganda shilling has remained stable in a volatile period, experiencing marginal depreciation in the first quarter of this year, according to global senior economist for Africa, David Cowan. He, however, says the central bank will face shilling management problems, looking at the inflationary trends.
Ugandan shilling has depreciated in the first quarter of this year, right? I mean, compared to the big currency moves we've seen across Africa, the depreciation is very, very marginal, right? Like I said, go back, remember what's happened. The Nigerian naira has moved from 464 to 1600. Ugandan shilling has been very well behaved in the last few months, and the central bank is obviously very attentive to what's going on, right? The Bank of Uganda will face management challenges with the shilling over the next year. I think the question you're asking is, how well does it manage it? Historically, it has shown itself as a very good institution capable of managing the Ugandan shilling. And at this point, I'm not sure that I see a huge reason to believe otherwise.
For the shilling to remain stable, there is need for the government to ensure that the fiscal deficit is brought under control.
You have to bring the fiscal deficit under control. The government has made progress in that, but it hasn't made enough progress, right? The target is still to get the fiscal deficit down to 3% of GDP, right? The fiscal deficit is still around 5% of GDP, right? They're going to have to make further fiscal consolidation. Otherwise, the Ugandan shilling will have to weaken, right? That's kind of like the law of economics.
Although he noted that the African economy is okay, it needs to do better and grow at 7% if it is to get out of poverty.
So if you look at the IMF forecast and say that, look, Africa's going to grow at 4% this year, right? Maybe a bit higher, 4.5%. By global standards, yeah, that looks okay. The question you'd ask is it okay? So my answer is they're okay. Many African economies you see growing at 4%. You know, Uganda, East Africa's growing a little bit faster at 5%, 6%. But you need African economies to be growing at 7%. You walk out the door. There's a ton of poverty out there, right? Faster growth is what will help alleviate that poverty, right?
The shilling faces a lot of pressure from within and outside the country. Its stability or instability will depend on the actions of the officials at the central bank. Racheal Nabisubi, NTV Business.